Guys, it's your girl Coco Kenzie back at it with another video. I'm so sorry I missed you guys yesterday because I was dealing with my sick baby. And then in turn, y'all know if you're a parent, then you know I probably got the bug too. It sucks, yes, but I'm here. So we had a lot of moving parts yesterday. We had Zeta Confidential Mondays. We had Timothy Pandolfi finding himself on TMZ yet again. And he also did do his explanation video. I didn't think he was going to do it, but he did it. So we're going to talk about it. Before we get into it, guys, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you can be a part of the conversation. If you are already a part of the conversation in the channel, then I greatly appreciate you. The only thing I always ask, guys, I don't care. Like on this space, you can disagree. We don't have to agree. I just always say keep it respectful. And I say that also with these real people, regardless of whoever you agree with. Know that these are real people with real feelings, real families. So please don't at them, guys. Come directly here. This is a safe space, a public forum where we can have those conversations here. And we can break it down however you want to break it down. We can speculate. We can talk about this, that, and other. But, like, keep it here because these are real people. But Zeta Confidential Mondays. Y'all know we address it every week on this channel. But, you know, it's not always about Zimmy. But this week, obviously, given the situation, Zeta felt like she needed to address the situation. And I think really to bring closure to it, hopefully. But there was a lot of stuff that she did discuss that I was really, shocked by. And I really just commend her for having the courage to do so. She addressed the NDA or non-existent NDA. She addressed the cease and desist that was sent to her. Contract, she talked about Christmas with his family or not Christmas, but seeing his family in 2023 or the potential, the relationship timeline. I thought she gave a little bit more clarity, and even bigger than what I think the main difference between her and Timmy was she really addressed fan questions and really trying to close the gap on the understanding of what the timeline was and what it looked like. And I really commend her because she allowed herself to even look unfavorable at times, but with very honest answers. So, or what I took to be very honest answers. So I definitely highly recommend you go over to zetaconfidential.com to check that out. If you have questions, she is answering them, and who better to hear from the horse's mouth? And apparently she seems to be answering a lot more than Timmy. So I would suggest if the route you want to go for questions, then that's the route that you do want to take. Now, ironically enough, and because Timmy and his sister, I just think just how they move about does not put them in the best light. Timothy Pandolfi found himself on TMZ again. Now, do I just coincidentally think that he was walking down the street and they thought, Timmy, oh my God, what's going on with you and Zeta? Are you guys together? Like, no, I absolutely don't. It is a very calculated move. It is, and it made him come across insincere as we led into his video. For somebody who's saying they're trying to lay low. I thought it was I know he was trying to get a story out there, but I don't know if that was necessarily the way to do it because it wasn't the best look. But nonetheless, he was found on the streets by TMZ, which ironically, again, sounds like, I can't say for sure, but it sounds like the exact same person who found him on the first video. So apparently there's a TMZ plug there. And he just went on to say that the relationship, they were no longer in a relationship, that, you know, it ended pretty quickly after coming out the villa from a romance perspective. It fizzled out. And, you know, and I just, it just wasn't given. I didn't like it. It just felt weird and planned. But as we lead into the video, the biggest thing that I thought that was the biggest takeaway, well, two. He thought that, or he says that the video was taped that Zeta's video with Murad was taped in December. What I can tell you with full confidence is that it was taped in January. Now, what I will say, what probably has happened here, and we see it in relationships all the time, when we are coming to a close in a relationship, or, you know, we're no longer on speaking terms for whatever reason, obviously maybe the relationship has ended, and especially in public relationships. So obviously ahead of time, it had ended before we knew, but you're no longer privy to know what's going on with me. If I'm going to London or what I do has absolutely nothing to do with you. You are no longer privy to that information. Is it unbelievable? And I just find it ironic that he would even think, because a lot of times, and again, I've tried to be fair, but I've dealt with some people like Timmy before. So, but I'm trying, guys. Bear with me. But a lot of times, guys, when they are moving how they move, they think that you're thinking like them. Like, I'm not thinking, I don't have to think like you. I think how I think. But does it sound absurd for her to go to London to be in a space with her family when she knows she's on the heels of a very public breakup? So she's going to have to deal with public opinion, some of the public has been really harsh already before we even get to that. And then also you had real feelings for this person. So does it sound crazy or absurd for her to go back to her mom and kind of, rely on the people that have your back and your backbone, and then to go and sit into a safe space where she obviously felt like a safe space, sharing her story with Murad? It completely makes sense to me, and I feel bad that obviously that miscommunication caused him to think in such a way. But he begins, first of all, he does say that they start off well, like the connection in the villa, it is automatic and you can feel it. And he goes on to say in week 1, which I think was a setup to kind of make it seem like it's just like nice, like, oh, she's really business savvy, but the connection was still real. But I do think that he was leading with the information he was giving, because he goes on to say at the end of week 1 in the villa that Zeta says that I think we can win it all. But he said not let him know that she was very business savvy. But he does say, but that was a quality that he liked about her. That was one of the many qualities that he liked about her, and this and that. But I still thought that was leading to kind of go into what he wanted to talk about later on in the podcast. But it's not crazy for me to believe that she said that she wanted that, she felt like she could win, because it still is a game, for as much as maybe a lot of other things, and she doesn't quite know him that well, even though it may feel like a long time in that 1 week span, like given again the isolation. But okay, well, I can win it right now. I can see that, so I'll give him that maybe that wasn't the biggest deal. So he does go on to talk about him and the situation with him not giving her a ride and back to LA. But he does say, now, all fairness, what I hated though is that he kept talking about, no, it's documented. It's documented all throughout the interview, even though it was a lot of slicing and dicing. All throughout the interview, he continuously said that it was documented. And I was just like, obviously, we know what we had already seen on TV, so you don't have to keep saying it's documented. It could be a nervous tick, perhaps, but it did come across as very calculated to let us know, we know what we saw. Just tell the story. That's it. But we know he was sick. I mean, it was documented, as he says. It was documented. And so for him, if he said that I called my roommate, because what he did say is that she was very attentive to him while they were still on the Love Island set. So anything that he needed, she was very caring. So to say that he got his roommate and he didn't want to get her sick. There had been other altercations with other islanders, which also lets us know, some of us wondering why he didn't seem to hang out with anybody else. Now, I thought, and because it's not crazy to believe that with that age gap, that maybe perhaps, he might talk to them behind closed doors, but maybe not want to hang out all the time. But apparently, I guess if you've had several altercations, I could see why perhaps they don't want to hang out with you. So he was just exhausted of the whole experience, along with being sick. So he was kind of ready to go and chill out. So, but in saying that, simple communication is always the key. All he simply had to do was tell Zeta that, like, I'm really not feeling good, like I'm not feeling it, and I don't want you to get sick, so you can't catch a ride this time, whatever. And I don't really know how my roommate's gonna feel with me being, just whatever. Completely fine. I mean, you might not love it, but okay. So, and I think she was willing to look past that herself. But you go on. And so he did address that roommate situation. But what he didn't address were two big things. But the first one being the New York and why he wouldn't let her take him to the airport. That just seemed kind of sketchy. But even if you just want to say no, the fact that you said, well, at least Zeta says that you kind of yes, no, like you're all over the place, and then you just didn't want her to take you. Why wouldn't you want your girlfriend to take you to the airport? Like, what's the secret? maybe he wanted to clear his head. I don't know. But even again, communication, just say those things clearly, and then someone does not have to be left wondering. But sometimes guys are stupid and they don't have the best communication. But what he did do, which again, I don't think is strange, is that he said, I want my, sister, especially given that she was the person that Zeta saw on the show representing his family. I want you to meet with my sister who's in LA. That makes complete sense. They get together. Obviously, it was not the best, from what we see with her actions and what Zeta has said, that it was not the best interaction. Do I think it's necessarily on Timmy because she represent him, like in the sense of he knows what exactly she's going to do or how she's going to act. We all got some crazy family members who we don't know necessarily what they're going to do. Sometimes they might be on their best behavior. Sometimes they might be on their absolute worst behavior, but you give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think that is what Zeta did. She did not want to hold his sister responsible, him responsible for his sister's actions or whatever conversation they had. You try to be positive, and maybe, sometimes his sister misspoke. So giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. And so I think when he got back, but she did ask him about the things that have been, that Zeta said that the sister says. And, everything's good. That's not what he was seeming to be giving. So again, everything's good. What I would have liked to see, because when he start talking about London, where it gets confusing is that he starts talking, we still are not clear. He's never clear. It's very murky on the timeline of when this said romance ended, because he keeps starting to talk or allude to like the romance is not there as much like before London. So, but the content, it's becoming business. But you would go to another country with somebody, I guess, I don't know, that just is not quite believable. And obviously also given when he said on a live himself, like who would go to another country with somebody they weren't with? So, again, just using their own words. But when you go, whether it's your business partner or whether it's your romantic partner, you get to another country, you have your sister. Why can you not address what was the reason your sister was there? Well, and not even just to us. Now, obviously to us, when you tell me you're going to be completely transparent and tell us everything, then you're not giving me everything because obviously something's wrong here. And going back to the meeting with the sister, he was very specific in saying that everything went well, that as far as he knew, initially, he did use the word initially. So at what point did you realize that something was off? So bridging that gap would be really nice to understand. Again, saying since he's giving everything. But they get there to London. The sister situation, obviously, I don't know. But something he does say that happens in London, which it burned my goodness, it grind my gears. And it sent me back to a couple of years ago, season 2, You Know Who. Because it just, again, like he said, Zeta said, I care about you so much. Like, it just, I just want you in my life. Like, I really know we're always going to be each other's life. Like a groveling idiot. Like, what? Regardless of however you feel about Zeta, whether you like her or don't like her, what we have never seen is her become this meek, submissive individual, like, that has to hold on to this person for what? Because she was already established in her own right. The followers went up with being on the show. She had been doing her blog for years. So all these things have to be noted to give context. And she has been with the likes of she'd have been with some people, okay? So she's good. So I'm just saying, the idea that she would have to grovel for Timmy and just, I care about you so much that I just want you, absolutely not, okay? But, so that, and it just, because it reminds me again, like just of, and I hate to say just black men putting black women down, or just like you're just act like you're God's gift to this woman, as though she wasn't going to win the show anyway, like as though you were the prize in the whole situation. Let's be clear with both of these guys. Like the only reason you were elevated, and this is not to diminish them in any way, it's just the absolute truth. The absolute truth is that they were elevated because of the very thing that we keep coming to that we don't like and talking about, is that we want to see representation and we want to see women of color celebrated. So when we think that, man, here's a guy who's willing to take this girl and accept her beauty and accept her as is, and man's like, yes, it's finally happening. We get to see it. And yet here we are again with the same conversation, same kind of games. And it's just, and then to paint or portray her, because he constantly kept going back to the situation with her outbursts on the island. So now you're also going to portray her as the angry black woman. Now, this could be very well, in all fairness, again, it could be cultural. And I'm not saying because I don't know his family. And I do know that, different cultures have different things. Now, he is part Italian, and remembering that. Again, I'm just speculating. I have no idea. But he is part Italian. He does come from a religious background where his dad is a pastor. So there could be sometimes hierarchy in where women fall in and how he deems a woman should be in her place. Now, whether he was intentionally trying to be misogynistic or not, who knows? But it came across very much like feeding into what Zeta said. So again, this just goes to perspective. So maybe he wasn't aware, but from the perspective, it would seem like you wanted Zeta to kind of fall down into her place. And so you were trying to create a picture of that in that moment of she's begging for your good graces because I just need you, so we can have the content. No, like I'm not buying. And then I would even listen or be willing, because in the moment when Zeta did what she did, and if you go back to watching my video the day that she did do the outburst, I was like, oh God, Zeta, like what? But you addressed it on the live. You've addressed it multiple times. And you said yourself how admirable you thought it was when she came back and apologized, for her character in that moment, because she felt like that was not her. And you said that you admired that. And had she not done that, then it would have been problematic. So now to come back and act like it's so problematic is just a little bit absurd to me, because it's not adding up in the situation. So either it was a problem or it wasn't. Just, you gotta pick one. It can't be everything. And considering it wasn't like Zeta seemed to have, since we're painting pictures, you're the one who seemed to not be able to get along with several other islanders, again, in your own words. So perhaps the problem was you and your ego. And I'm saying this as growth genuinely, because, sometimes we can't see ourselves and see the bigger picture, but sometimes we got to reflect that maybe we were the problem. But, as a scene, they go on, and it just seems like the biggest thing is just, it seems to be communication issues. It seems to be like Timmy shows up when he wanted to show up, and he was hedging his bets, because I know for us, he's never been clear with this timeline. So I can only imagine, and especially what's worse, because he doesn't necessarily owe it to us, but when you try to explain it to us and you're still not clear, then I would assume that Zeta was getting the same circles run around her multiple times in conversations. So the only thing, now granted, some stuff again like match up, but it match up in different ways, and showing, I feel like, giving more credibility to what Zeta was saying, and maybe he wasn't saying it from that perspective. But they both say January 1st, a meeting was had, an emotional meeting where it was kind of like a do or die kind of. And he says that she was willing and felt like she could go either way. And it's on her end, she said she was going to give it a little bit more time, and let's give it some time, see where this goes, and see if you can meet my needs, which I think is very fair, and that would happen in real relationships, outside of the public eye. And she did, and she wasn't pleased. He says he tried to reach out several times to her. She did not answer or respond. Now, he's very specific. He says he tried to reach out in voice memos or whichever. Now, if this is the case and somebody did not respond to you, and you're in a relationship, again, whether business, romantic, and the public, because we don't know all this is happening, but you see this person on Twitter, you see this person's on Instagram on some level, shoot, you can go to zetaconfidential.com. You can reach this person if you wanted to, if you feel like there's a glitch or something, whatever. But if you just want to bring closure to the situation, you could even go to her house. But you don't. And so again, the communication is just like what it wants to be. But obviously she felt neglected in the situation. Now, do I believe, because he says that he was going to he had a statement, fine, you want me to be a bad guy? That's how you felt. Then, and that's, again, this is not Zeta's words, this is his words. You want me to be the bad guy and break it off? Fine, then I'll come up with the statement. Here we go. He sends over the statement. He says she doesn't like the statement. She doesn't want to co-sign it. Is that crazy to me to think that, or not sends over, whichever, like, you know, they have a conversation and he wants to say that this statement is whatever. And if she doesn't want to co-sign it, and I could see if I'm mad at you, and he said himself, we keep butting heads. I keep butting heads with you. And what he's probably wanting to say is not what I agree with. And we can't come to a meeting of the minds. And she says that she emotionally wasn't ready. Which, I mean, very well, like, it could be very exhausting if she's been lied to. And ultimately, she decided to take matters into her own hand to tell her story. Also, we got to remember that there is another party in this situation, and we've seen how manipulative they can be. Now, I can't speak for Zeta. I can only speculate. But in my speculation, if I was dealing with somebody as calculated as his sister, and maybe as calculated as he's coming across, then I would want to be ahead of the game, and I would want to control my narrative for somebody lies on me or tries to spin the story in any kind of way that is defaming my character and who I am and everything that I've built. Because, you know, I do think, again, like, because she's had the blog for years before, because she's been acting, she has tried to build something on a bigger foundation, bigger than relationships, that stands for, you know, just for good. And so she went and she did what she did. He felt blindsided. But again, when communication is lost, of course you will feel blindsided, because we're no longer communicating on that kind of level. And in turn, she did what she did and told her perspective. He said his perspective. I guess it's up to us to figure out where we believe. I am Team Zeta. I stand with the women, because this happens so much. And I know some people have given up on the shows. I still believe Black love. It can happen, guys. And I probably will be watching again next year, just in hopes that we can see it. Now, will I be as vested? Probably not. But, you know, I'm just have fun with it for what it is. But, you know, it can happen. But again, it goes back to the same thing. We keep coming back to the same place, and we need to have discussions about why. And even if Timmy doesn't have a public discussion of why, then, you know, he needs to reflect with himself a little bit. Now, there's been speculation about the girl. I know, because some people have brought it up. I didn't want to bring it up because there's no, you know, unless there's some clear-cut proof, then I'm not going to talk about somebody that I don't know exists. Now, if some clear-cut evidence come out, like Caleb and that girl, then, you know, it's definitely worth the conversation. But as it stands on its own, you know, I think Zeta definitely, she put herself out there. She was vulnerable, sweet. She's answered questions for fans. She's done all she could do. I still don't think he should attack Timmy. Sometimes maybe he has some growing to do, obviously, and he's got some reflection. But let's talk about it in the comments. Let me know, guys, what you guys thought about everything. Let's break it down. I got another video coming probably, what is today? Tomorrow, for Murad Morali, because there's been so much talk about why Zeta decided to go that route. And I just think it's worth a conversation. All I ask is that we keep it respectful and just hear one another. So that way, you know, when we can hear one another and be respectful, then the other person may be able to see your perspective, but also you might be able to see mine. You don't have to. I'm not looking to change anybody's mind, but just have honest conversation. That's all I ask for always on the channel. I love you guys so much. Everybody stay safe, stay well, and I can't wait to talk to you guys real soon. Peace, love, many blessings. Hopefully these braces will be off the next time you see me. Got an appointment today. Love you guys. Talk to you real soon.